Hello and welcome everyone to round 6 of the PSGL F4 Championship. It's once again 7 p.m. UK time and it's once again time for an F4 round here in PSGL. And my name is Felix. I'm very glad to be back after I had to miss out last week because I was ill. And I am once again joined by Jake. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. It's great to be back in the commentary box. Had to miss last week purely because I can't stream my internet, unfortunately, without yourself. So it's good to have you back. And here it's a very famous track and should be some exciting racing ahead.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, on the F1 games, I don't have any sound, by the way, so I think that was the case for Mexico as well. But it should fix itself at some point throughout this session. Um, Now I've got sound. Very good. Um, I think on the F1 game, Monza is usually a track where it's more tactical instead of really going for it. In real life, we see a lot more overtakes around Monza, but here it's more of a thing of, tactically overtaking at the right parts in the race. Obviously, you don't want to lose lose the 1 second gap to a DRS train because the DRS train is extremely powerful around here, and obviously it's not going to be easy to overtake inside a DRS train. ERS also a big thing on this track, so I think we'll see a lot of tactical moves here today, and I think we're going to see a lot of patience as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's easy to get lulled into making a move perhaps too early sometimes, and in this around this track, there's so many areas you can then get re-overtaken. So it's going to be a lot of tactics, a lot of DRS trains, I suspect, in the race, and it's going to be really about strategically planning out your race and doing things at the right time. And I think as well, probably avoiding some penalties as well, because this is one of those tracks I feel like where it is easier to pick up penalties than it is at some others.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously you need to push the limits. We don't have that many corners where you can gain a lot of time. I reckon a lot of those guys will be on 0-0 wings here today. So I think you just have to push as hard as you can through those corners, and then it's easy to invalidate if you try to find the limit. But we can see the first couple of laps coming in. 190.3 from Roby so far. Jump goes into P3 with a 120.0. There we've got Luke and Nick moving up into P2. And yes, everyone is about to finish their laps now.
Yeah, we've got Samba across the line, and he takes provisional pole on a 119.1, so he's shown a lot of pace this season, and that's another good lap time popping up there. And yeah, there's a lot of lap times coming in, but Samba sets the early pace. It's early days, of course, in the season. We're probably about half distance in terms of a season now, but it's already looking like a two-horse battle in the championship. You've got Giroffu and Kieran that are kind of stretching out ahead of everyone else, so I don't want to say it's between two drivers already, but that's the way it's sort of gearing up at the moment.
Yeah, sadly, like I said, I missed last week. I reckon that was exciting to see. By the way, what I've noticed, just apart from the results right now, how different the front wings look on the cars in terms of height. If you look at the Alpine, you can see the front wing is so low, but if you look at an Aston Martin, for example, of Henry, look at how high that front wing is. Was that always the case?
Yeah, that looks a bit unnatural. I don't know if that's real life changes that they've implemented, but yeah, that doesn't look like I'm used to, as I've just seen Fleddy go for a spin in Sector 2 as I was looking at the Alpine, sort of in comparison. But yeah, that's very odd. The Mercedes is kind of middle ground. Yeah, the front wings are a bit all over the place, to be honest. I don't know what that's all about. But yeah, if the colours weren't enough, you can also tell cars apart now by their front wings as well.
Yeah, I never really noticed the Alpha has got quite a low front wing with Matteo, um, who has just started another lap right now. Look at that front wing. That's really close to the ground. But yeah, like you said, that Aston Martin looks a bit unnatural. I think that's a nice way of putting it. Oh, Jesus. I never realized, but okay. We'll just have to go with it. Now, I think I just have to get rid of that thought now, because every single time I'm going to switch to an Aston Martin now, I'm going to look at that front wing, and that's the only thing I'm going to be focusing on, I think. Shouldn't have mentioned it.
Yeah, it's just going to be drawn straight away, and I won't mention then that the McLaren one's pretty high up as well. Yeah, the no one's got within a tenth of a second of Samba's lap time up to now. Some early lap times been set already. Drivers coming out for their second runs, which is good to see. Obviously, without the tyre rule now, I think drivers are more inclined to come out in qualifying, which is obviously great for us commentators. And yeah, the split in lap times at the moment is probably a little bit wider than I thought it might have been, given that there aren't many corners, and obviously the tier system in PSGL means that the drivers should be very evenly matched on pace, but there's a little bit of spread in lap times at the moment. You'd expect that to close by the end of the session.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I just quickly have to put down the audio for the game slightly because I feel like the engines are quite loud at the moment for me. So let's just change it like that. And yeah, I think that should be all right. Um, Hopefully the sound is all right. If not, then just make sure to let us know in the chat whenever something is wrong. And I think most of the drivers are out now for their second runs in this session. Simon is going to be the first one to start his second attempt.
We've got Gian slightly ahead on the road potentially. In the Williams, he's just coming up through towards the Ascari now. Kind of a bit out of sync, I think, with everybody else in their runs. But his second sector time, based on what I've seen, is kind of in the ballpark. So it's maybe a decent lap time for him.
Ooh, that was very much on the limit. They're out of Ascari on the white line on the exit, nearly invalidated there, but that is exactly what you need to do. You need to find that limit and just use as much track width as you can out of the parabolica corner now and onto the start finish straight, and he goes into 7th with his first timed lap of the day into the top 10 for the Williams. Solid effort.
Simon's invalidated his attempt, so he won't be improving just yet. I'm just trying to see who else we've got on a lap time potentially. Amoy. Yeah, wow, good timing. Just going up to Parabolica now, and currently P6, so if he's been able to find some improvement on this lap, we could see him shoot up towards the first couple of rows of the grid.
There we go then, out of the last corner he goes. Currently in 6th. Where would he go? Not that far up the grid, only slightly improved as Roby goes on to provisional pole for now with a 119 flat. Lukene comes around the final corner now. He has invalidated though. Kieran has just finished his lap. He went up to 4th. I expected a bit more from Amboy there. Only just improved by 1/10 of a second, and that only put him up by 1 position, and that only for a couple of seconds until drivers around him improved. There goes Matteo then on his second attempt, because obviously he invalidated his first one. Thank you.
Oh, just watching. Wow, that's synchronized spinning at the Ascari chicane between Debo Zillaire and Henry. That was interesting. I was watching Debo Zillaire on board, and he spun, and then the Aston Martin sort of followed him in sympathy.
Thank you, Dax, by the way, in the chat for saying the sound is fine. That is good to hear. And we still have 2 cars out on track without a proper lap time set. We've had a purple middle sector, though, for Macho, if that shows up correctly. Obviously, I'm not quite sure if it is correct because it's the F1 game. But still, around the final corner he comes there, Macho. His first lap of the day is going to put him up into P7. Well inside the top 10 for the AlphaTauri driver. Solid effort with that first run he did. And he probably won't be too unhappy with that one.
No, it's a decent lap time, and you just want to get a lap time on the board when it gets to sort of this part of the session, because like for Debo Zillaire now, he's under pressure now at the end of qualifying just to try and get a lap time on the board. And when you haven't got a lap time with just a few minutes to go, I almost feel like, almost instinctively, you leave a few centimetres margin, which, of course, you need to push the limits if you're going to get the best time. So, yeah, you almost play it a little bit safe, and that might be reflected in your lap time. So, Debo Zillaire under pressure with 7 minutes to go. Matteo, I believe, has just moved up to P3 on a 1:19.3. And of course, you mentioned Kieran did a lap time earlier. Just noticed as well, his main championship rival, Giroffu, isn't actually racing tonight. So this is a real opportunity for Kieran to seize a big advantage in the championship.
Yeah, also for Obi maybe to catch back up a little bit. He's sitting in fourth in the championship on 24 points. Obviously, quite a big gap to the top two, but currently sits on provisional pole, and he could gain at least some solid points on Giraffu then. Maybe not on Kieran, who is here, but who knows? Maybe
Yep.
he is struggling tonight as well. Gustav, in the meantime, is on a flying lap. Same with Lukanik, who has just started his lap. Though KK goes into P3 with his lap. Let's see where Gustav goes. Gustav slightly down on his time, about only by 1,000 of a second. Hits the curb a little bit too much on the exit of Ascari and spins his Red Bull car out. The last time we saw that in a race was in Hungary when Max Verstappen then won the race. So maybe it's a good sign for the Red Bull driver. Who knows? But Lukanik is on his lap going through Lesmo 1 and 2. And then we're not far away from the second sector split to get an idea of how good his lap time will be. As he runs up to Ascari, up the hill, slightly up on his time. That would gain him 2 positions though. Oh, he clips the curb on the inside a little bit too much. It looks like he kind of got stuck on that very high curb on the inside there. But he still kept it on the track. That might have lost him a couple of thousands here or there a little bit. But there he comes around the final corner. Parabolica goes out wide, then cuts to the inside. The shortest run up to the line. But no, I think he lost too much time through that Ascari chicane that he just decided to box at the end of that lap to be able to set another proper lap right at the end. Let's see what Matteo can do as he comes around the final chicane in a couple of seconds then. Yeah, once again goes very close to the inside, lets his car go out wide and then cuts to the inside, but also he pits. So it looks like drivers are struggling at the moment to set faster lap times. Kieran is starting a lap now. That's...
As Gian goes P3.
Oh yeah, in the Williams.
Nice. Yeah, nice lap time from the Williams there. I was sort of following him on board. I wasn't expecting that much of an improvement, to be honest. But yeah, he must have found a great final sector and goes up to third. Debo Zillaire, the only driver without a lap time, is just about to complete one. But no, he's not, because he's going in the pits, which, I mean, maybe he didn't feel it was that good of a lap time, but he still hasn't got one on the board with less than 4 minutes to go.
I find it very awkward. The timing from Kieran, he just started the lap a couple of seconds ago, then didn't have a great first chicane and just straight away abandoned his lap once again. But in general, that timing was very awkward. Going for another flying lap with 4 minutes to go is not what everyone else is doing. Maybe he just wanted his clean air or something, but I think, you know, the best thing you can do is to be not too far behind another driver to get the slipstream on the long straights. But obviously without them holding you up in the corners.
Yeah, and obviously no planned slipstreaming, because obviously you're not allowed to do that. But if you can just stay within close enough to get that tow from the car in front, then it's definitely benefit you. Amwoy is the latest driver to move up to third. I swear we've had about 4 drivers now move up to third in the last few minutes. But it's Amwoy now who takes P3. But no one particularly looking like they're going to challenge Roby's time. But that could all change in the next couple of minutes. But Roby's lap time at the moment standing very strong. I don't know if we've got anyone on a lap right now.
Currently...
We've got Macho recovering from a spin at Ascari, so that was like a popular spinning spot at the moment.
It doesn't look like a quick lap time as well. So I don't think he will improve with that one. Joey has just started another lap, I think. Has he? Yes, I think he has. Yeah.
Yep, Simon as well is in the middle sector, and he's 6 tenths up on his first sector time, so I don't know what he's done, but he's found a lot of speed in that first sector, so he should, providing this lap continues smoothly, he should move up comfortably from his current 15th place.
Oh, Macho is out. Macho has decided to call it a day in the pit lane as well. Oh, saw that from Simon. A cheeky little slipstream he got there from the car. I think that might have been an Alpine there. I think that was Fleddy. He tried to stay in the slipstream, but probably that didn't gain him too much. Around the Parabolica corner he comes then. And onto the start-finish straight. He doesn't go into the pit. Shoulders run up to the line. And where does he go? He goes only into 10th. Lost a bit of time in that final sector, it looked like.
Yeah,
Marcel is on a lap as well.
yeah, he didn't find all too much time around the rest of the lap after gaining such a amount in the first sector. Marcel, ooh, that was a horrible parabolic. It looked like there was tons of understeer in that Aston Martin.
Yeah, no wonder with that front wing.
Hopefully that's just a visible glitch, because that would not be ideal for the drivers.
Yeah,
Although
I don't
Aston
think
Martin's right now not doing too well, so who knows?
Simon on his final run probably. Around Lesmore 2 he goes, and let's see what the second sector split says then about him. He's very low in ERS, only 6%. Is he on a lap?
Well,
I
he
think
says
he
he's
is.
improving marginally, yeah. Although that looked a bit hairy through Ascari, and now he's got the typical scene at the Monza final corner. Everyone's backing up, but I think he's going to be okay. But if he does improve, I don't think it's going to be by all too much, especially with the ERS deployment he's got left. He goes into the pits.
Yeah.
So, abandon that one. Fleddy's on a lap, just coming around the final corner now.
Yeah, there he goes.
Only 16th. I don't think he'll be all too happy with that.
Nah, I reckon he won't. Amroy goes into third with his lap time in the Ferrari at their home race. Matteo is going to be the next one to cross the line. Currently sitting in P6. Let's see what he can do in his Alfa Romeo, also Italian team here in Italy. It's a Swiss team actually, technically, but it's Alfa Romeo, obviously an Italian brand. And here he comes then across the line. Doesn't improve at all. 16 thousandths of a second slower. Next is an S Martin. I think that is Henry. Henry has invalidated though. Then we've got Debo, who has invalidated as well. Then an AlphaTauri. I think that's KK, who's coming around the final corner now. He's slightly down on his time. Can he somehow gain some time in that final sector to improve on his P5 currently? Yes, he can. Up into third he goes. Can't challenge Roby for pole though. Roby pits. Then we've got Glan, who has invalidated. Lukanik is the only one that can now properly challenge Roby for pole position. Can he do that, or is his lap time not good enough? It looks like he comes across the line, and it's going to be P3 for the Ferrari driver. He beats KK by 300ths of a second, but he can't challenge the Haas for pole. And it's the second row and the third row for the Ferrari team at their home race. But in the end, it is Roby in the American Haas car who takes pole position by quite some margin, considering it is Monza 1.5 tenths ahead of Samba.
Yeah, that was, and it wasn't like he set it right at the end as well. He set it reasonably early in the session when the track was still sort of getting up to speed in terms of grip levels, but absolutely smashes it. Luke and Nick, great lap at the end to take P3. Samba, it's a front row of reserves, I do believe. I don't think Roby or Samba have a full-time seat in the division, but they've been quite regular on the grid anyway. But that's good for them. Kieran down in 8th. I think he'll be slightly disappointed with that. And Gian, I did notice as well on his lap, he starts 6th, but he was a tenth of a second up after 2 sectors, but he had a spin round Ascari, so he could have been on potentially sitting on the front row if it wasn't for that.
Yeah, that is your grid for the race here then. Roby on pole, which, like I said, he's still sitting in 4th in that championship. He is quite some points away from the championship lead, but we have seen some really impressive comebacks in real life Formula 1, and especially in league racing, whenever someone misses a race maybe, like it's the case with Giraffu this weekend, or this Monday, I should rather say. It's not a weekend. That gives him a chance of gaining some points, and then obviously he needs to use those chances. And he's done everything he needed to do in qualifying. He took pole position, and now it's time for him to bring that pole position over the line as the race winner as well. Obviously, it's not easy to be ahead here in Monza because you're going to give everyone behind you the slipstream and the DRS. And with those straights, it's very, very difficult to break that 1 second window. He needs to try and break that 1 second window within the first 3 laps. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to get out of that DRS window once the driver behind you is in it.
Absolutely, it's a very different sort of race, this one, just because of the characteristics of Monza, very different to any other track that we have on the calendar. Before we get underway, quick shout out as well to PSGL's sponsors, GT Omega and Grid Rival. And I have to let you know as well that if you want any GT Omega products, head to their website and you can get a discount using the code PSGL. So massive thank you to both of them. They make sure that we continue bringing these excellent coverage across all divisions at PSGL, and hopefully this will be yet another fantastic race. And to anyone who hasn't watched any races in a couple of weeks, we do still have the formation lap off, so we will be going straight into the action. And that reason for that, I believe, is because there's some issue at the moment with the formation lap when it is on.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the tide temperatures, which are still, I think, glitched once you have the formation lap on. And I think the host maybe then is the only one on warm tires or the only one on cold tires. I can't quite remember. But yeah, that is the reason why we sadly have to turn off the formation lap. Which means I haven't got a lot of time left until the lights go out, because the lights are coming on now, and we're up to 5 red lights here in Monza. And we are underway here. It looks like there was a jump start from 2 people at the back of the grid, but it looks like Roby's had a solid start. There goes Samba, though, down the inside in the Mercedes. He's challenging for P1 currently. Down the inside he goes into the first chicane, and he gets ahead. It looks like at the back there's a lot of carnage going on. Drivers ghosting left, right, and center. And it looks like it was more or less clean, though. Then we've got Samba then in the lead ahead of Roby. Lukenig moved up to 3rd. He has to defend himself from KK now in that AlphaTauri. Can he defend himself? Yes, he can. And then we've got Matteo, Jaume, Jan. Kieran is fighting with Macho, the man sitting in 2nd in the championship, and he was able to defend himself from the AlphaTauri of Macho. Amoy has lost quite a lot of places as well.
Yes, dramatic start straight away with those 2 jump starts, but fair play to Samba. Used these superior grip of those medium tyres to wrestle the lead back from Roby, and then it was 3 wide behind, which is why I think that big gap has opened up behind Roby. So it was all a bit chaotic behind, but the top 2 got away superbly, and I think it was just the difference with those medium tyres enabling Samba to grab the lead from Roby.
Yeah, that is the issue. Without the formation lap, we can't really talk about tyres all too much. So the only 2 people who are out on mediums are Samba and Jaume. All the other drivers are out on the softs, on the hards, I'm sorry. And we can see that Amoy has lost 5 places on the opening lap. Like you've mentioned, Jaume has made the best of his mediums up into 4th, and same with Samba on his mediums. He straight away on the getaway, it looked like he had the better grip. In the background, we've got Marcel going past Diogo Silva, and he lost another place against the Mercedes of Debo as well. And he is now down to 13th. Debo from P18 up to P12. Very impressive stuff from him as well. And Gustav looks like he had some damage. Same with Simon. Both were in the pits.
Yeah, I don't know if they went into the drive-throughs actually after those jump starts. So
yeah,
they may have had damage as well, because Simon was involved in something at the first corner. But you can see already. Look at the gap that's opened up between 2nd and 3rd place. This is Samba and Roby will be loving this, but Samba's spun round. Samba has spun round at Ascari, and just as I was saying that him and Roby were in a fantastic position, that has all gone down the drain for Samba. And that's the first spin we've seen at Ascari in the race, so that corner's still catching people out.
Yeah, obviously it's gone from 0 to 0 within split seconds for the Mercedes driver after his great start, after he did everything he needed to do on that opening lap. It hasn't even taken him an entire second lap to throw it all away again. He's now basically down in not quite last, but third to last. By the way, Gustav has somehow made a pit stop, so he might have had some damage because his drive-through isn't served yet. Just to let you know, Joey just let Samba pass. Joey's going really slowly. Don't know what was going on there. I think he went off the track because his tires are dirty as well. I didn't quite see it, but yeah, that looked like a pretty easy move for Samba. And obviously that is the worst possible case for the Mercedes driver because he was on the quicker compound at that part, and you know the advantage he should have had on that first stint is completely thrown out the window now, and on the second stint he's going to be on the slower tire compared to everyone else.
Yeah, that's a huge blow. That really does throw his race upside down. He was in such a good position with the tyres and the strategy, and now he's really going to have to try and fight his way back through the field and minimise the time deficit lost when he goes onto the hard tyres when everyone else is on mediums. But Luke and Nick now has a comfortable margin up front. It's closed down a bit, so I wonder if he's just maybe taking it a bit too easy or if he's made a little mistake somewhere. But Luke and Nick just slightly pulling away from Keke. He did come under threat for him on the previous lap, but it looks like there's been some contact between Keke going into the back of Luke and Nick, and that's the Ferrari spun round, and the Tifosi will have their head in their hands at that one.
I somehow didn't see it. I was on board with Matteo, but it just looked like KK went wide. But it seems like he then hit the Ferrari ahead because he outbraked himself. Lukanek lost another place now to Fleddy as well. And that's worst case, and I think KK has got some front wing damage as well with that because he just lost another position. Matteo now up into second, and currently it looks like a pretty easy race so far for Roby up ahead, 2.5 seconds the gap now, and Matteo also in a really comfortable position now in second with just 1 point. Now it's 1.4 seconds to the car behind him, was just around 1 second before. So it looks like P1 and P2 are very, very controlled at the moment.
Yeah, that can all change in a split second, as we've seen already. A few drivers near the front having issues, either through their own accord or something, or being tapped by another driver. Look at Jaum now, though. He's really made those medium tyres work. Finds himself up to third now, but he's coming under threat from his teammate. So no team orders going on at Williams, and Gian on the slower compound of tyre makes a move on him, and Kieran looks to slide up the inside as well, but there wasn't much room. But Kieran might get a run on him on the exit, so I don't think the Williams are working very well together there, and we've now got Gustav crashed, and that could be a safety car.
It is a safety car. Do we have the second Red Bull still in the race? No, we don't, right?
No,
he was the only Red Bull. All right, I'm glad he was the only Red Bull, because otherwise I think there would have been some accusations of purposely crashing to trigger a safety car. But obviously he has no reason for it if his teammate wasn't even in this race. And that is obviously not a nice situation for Roby and Matteo, who both were in a pretty comfortable position before the safety car came out. Obviously Roby with that 2.5 second gap to second, and Matteo also with that nearly 2 second gap behind, which is now completely washed away. And now it's basically reset to 0, and I think Samba is going to be one happy man with that safety car.
Yeah, Roby will absolutely not be enjoying this. He fainted to go into the pits then, and then didn't. Jaum pits. So I wonder if he's just going to switch to hards and try and take them to the end, because that would seem like the only real strategy call from pitting on mediums. Samba pits as well. I mean, he's got less to lose given his trap position. But Jaum deciding to surrender a trap position, get on the hard tyres now, and see if he can take them to the end. That could potentially be a good strategy call, particularly if there's no more safety cars.
Yeah, Lukanek has gone onto softs. Okay.
I mean, he was on hard tire. I'm a little bit surprised he didn't just stay out, but maybe he's anticipating another safety car, maybe trying to do 2 soft tire stints, going aggressive. Maybe feels like he's got nothing to lose after that incident with Keke. But
Maybe that, or he just needed one different compound. You know, that he then
oh, of
straight
course,
away
yeah.
goes back into the pits, goes back onto the hard tire to then be able to go until the end. I can remember that was a legit strategy that Sauber did quite a lot of times in 2017. I remember that. And they were quite successful with that strategy. I think it worked for Pascal Wehrlein back in the day at some occasions, where he ended up in the points by doing basically a no stop by just pitting twice under a safety car for two different compounds and then just switching back to the hard compound that is going to make it to the end. I don't know if the hard compound will really make it to the end of this race though.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the strategy that Jam's going for by the looks of things. So we'll see. I mean, Monza's not typically a high track for tyre degradation, purely because there isn't that many corners. There's a couple of long sweeping corners, but the straights usually help to cool the tyres down. We'll see if Luke and Nick goes into the pits. He doesn't, so maybe Luke and Nick is going for a soft strategy because he's stayed out, which has surprised me a little bit. Now you mentioned that strategy.
Yeah, great. I try to analyze that strategy call of going onto the softs and then just, I go through all that theory of going back onto hards, and then he just stays out on his softs. All right, maybe I should just next time I'll just wait for another lap and then I'll talk about it. But yeah, so Robbie currently in the lead once again. I'm curious to see if he can pull out that gap like it was before as easily as he was able to do on the first stint, because obviously on lap 1 there was a bit of chaos going on behind him from P3 downwards, and that really helped. So I'm not quite sure if Matteo is going to be as easy to get rid of as it was on the first lap, because I don't think there's going to be as much chaos coming down into turn 1. Obviously, it still can happen that some contact will be made into the first chicane. Obviously, it's a very slow, heavy braking zone, which always catches some drivers out here and there. But I don't think it's going to be as chaotic as on the first lap. So it's going to be more dependent on raw speed. And I'm very curious to see if Roby has got that raw speed to get Matteo out of that 1 second window.
Well, there's a lot of factors to play into when you look at the fastest laps as a good guide, but all the top 4, at the exception of Matteo, have got 122.8 as their fastest lap. Matteo is a 122.5, so that suggests he's got some extra pace in his pocket. He may have had some DRS, ERS assistance on that lap, but nevertheless, that suggests he's at least got some speed in which he can, at the very least, trouble Roby on his restart, but we shall see.
Yeah, he has not gone yet. He's waiting right up until the line, and now he has gone. That wasn't the greatest restart for him, though, because Matteo is not far away. He's using the overtake mode, and he's trying to get closer and closer right before turn 1, but he can't get past. There it goes. Down the inside goes Giant, or around the outside goes Kieran, I should say. Some slight contact between Kieran and Matteo, and that has cost him some time, and there's a spin from Macho, who has made contact with his teammate out of turn 2, and he has spun round, lost his front wing, and there goes Simon then around the outside of the Mercedes. No other way around. Samba goes down the inside then through La Curva Grande, and it looks like the rest of the field has kept it clean. There goes Kieran though, up into P3 after Giant probably made a mistake. I didn't catch it sadly because I was focused on the back of the grid.
Yeah, he did. He ran wide at the exit of the chicane, and that gave Kieran all the ammunition to take P3 away. So, mistake there from Gian, and Kieran was only too happy to take advantage. Alpha Tower is at Monza at their home race, colliding. That will not please Franz Tost one bit, but it's heavily impacted on Macho's race. And it'll be interesting to see how Keke gets on here, because there was suspicion, of course, with that earlier collision with Luke and Nick, but he maybe had some wing damage. So it'll be interesting to see what his pace is like in comparison to those around him. And as I say that, he goes very wide at Parabolica.
Yeah, I think it was really important for Kieran to get past Giant on that first lap of the restart. It was a good attempt into turn one around the outside, but then he sadly made contact with Matteo ahead and nearly spun, and luckily he was able to then keep his P4 ahead of KK, who then made contact with his teammate. So a very hectic restart for Kieran, but he has managed to climb up into P3. And right now the gaps are not really pulling out as much as I thought they might do. Roby's still only 6 tenths ahead of Matteo, and it looks like Matteo has got some solid pace in that Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, a nice move from Henry on Diogo Silva there into the second chicane, taking P9 away from the Haas driver. So a nice move from the very tall winged Aston Martin. And just behind his teammate now. So both Aston Martins running in the top 10. We've got yellow flag in sector
Joey.
2. Joey, the exit of the second. Lesmo has had a spin. Doesn't look like there's any damage, but the time loss will probably impact his race quite a lot anyway. So the damage, won't decide anything. But I tell you what, Matteo is all over the back of Roby. And Roby hasn't had a particularly great parabolic here, so we could be about to have a change for the lead of this race.
Yeah, I was following them for that lap, and it looks like Matteo's got a lot of pace in that Alfa Romeo, and he pulls out to the inside. Half defense from Roby, doesn't quite close the door on the inside. There goes Matteo then up into the lead on lap 10 of this race, and the Italian Alfa Romeo is leading then, and it looks like Joey has crashed. Lukanik has also crashed, and we've got another safety car.
Wow, where is that crash at?
That one crash is in Parabolica. The other crash is in turn one.
Turn one. Well, Lukanik's had no luck through turn one. He got hit by Keke there earlier in the race, and now I don't know what's happened to him, but he's now out of the race there as well. So that corner has not been his lucky charm this time, and another safety car. And I just wonder, lap 10 of 27, is this sort of, would the drivers be able to pit from hards to mediums and get to the end from this point, or is it still a little bit too early?
I don't know, if you maybe preserve the tyres a little bit, it might work. Obviously, Matteo then made his move on Roby at the right moment, because he is now in the lead of this race. For now, if he pits, he will lose that lead, I'm pretty sure. But at the moment, he will control the pace once the safety car goes into the pit lane. And does he go into the pits? Yes, he does. Same with basically everyone behind them. Look at that. Who stays out? It's the Williams of Jaum. Jaum stays out, who is obviously on the hard tires, and Samba as well. So both drivers who were on hards, because they started on the mediums and pitted under the first safety car, are now leading this race, but I don't think they will be too happy with that safety car, because everyone else has now gone onto the medium tyre and will go until the end of this race.
Yeah, I think Jaum and Samba's tactic from sort of this point onwards will be to just try and stay as close to the front as they can. They probably anticipate losing positions on the restart, but those hard tyres may be in better nick than the mediums come the end of a race, so they may come back at drivers later on, but they're going to have they're going to have a mirrors full of cars come this restart, and it's going to be tough for them to keep them behind, but we shall see here. It's a very interesting scenario whereby we've got the two drivers at the front on the slower tyre, and everyone else on new mediums coming at them. It's going to be, I think we're going to see even more chaos on this next restart, and it may not be the last we see of that Aston Martin safety car.
By the way, I just saw a 10-second... Okay, Henry got a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting. I reckon that is glitched, because a 10-second penalty would mean he cut the entire first chicane or something, and he was right in the midfield, so I don't think he really did that. I tell you what, though, I think Jaum and Samba aren't going to be too happy with this game, because this game just gives you one set of mediums. And usually in real life, the teams tend to use more softs in the practice session to have then two sets of mediums for the race, because obviously you get one medium set for the race, no matter how many mediums you use in the practice sessions. But usually the teams in real life use don't use one of the medium sets in practice, so they can use two sets in the race. And on this game, you only get one set of mediums in the race. Same with the hard tires. So that means they can't even switch back onto mediums because they don't have a fresh set left.
Yeah, that's not good for them, and it kind of forces them into this strategy of staying out. We've seen, particularly in the case of Samba, that he's got excellent pace. He qualified on the front row. He was leading the race, of course, until a spin at Ascari. So the tyre deficit, he may be able to counteract that with just some of his raw pace anyway. Not too sure about Jaum, but we'll see. He did have a cracking start on his medium tyres. If you remember, went from 10th to about 5th or 4th inside a few laps. So, they've got some decent pace, and we'll see what they can do. But they've got a lot of quick cars behind as well. I expect potentially we might have a safety car in the end. This like match is still catching up though, so we'll see on that one. Looking at it at the moment, obviously there isn't really any penalties to take into consideration here, so it's very much a flat-out race. But you have to say, based on the track position and the tyres, that Matteo is still in the best position. With Roby, definitely cannot be ruled out because we've seen how quick he was in qualifying and the early stages of his race.
Yeah, obviously the issue for Jaume and Samba is that it is Monza and it is very easy to overtake another car, apart from a DRS train, obviously. So if Samba can stay ahead of Matteo, those two guys ahead, Jaume and Samba, could try and work together, and P1 could try and keep P2 in that DRS window. So they are not as easy to pass as they would be without the help of DRS and slipstream. But obviously it's still Monza, and it's still not that difficult to pass. If it was Hungary, I would say, okay, they are on slower tyres, but it's not going to be easy to pass them. But around here, it's going to be a tough time for those two, I think.
Yeah, even looking ahead to next week when we go to our second Italian track at Imola, that would also have been a decent track for them to try and defend from the cars behind. But yeah, like you say here, there's so many opportunities, and traction is such a huge factor at Monza. So, and you're going to get better traction off those grippier, softer tyres. So yeah, it's going to be hard work for them. They'll just be trying to hope to minimise how much positions they lose in the early laps, because that's really when the difference between the tyres is going to be felt the most.
I think the safety car will be coming in at the end of this lap, and then we're actually at the halfway mark of this race. Already had two safety cars. I always feel like races around Monza are pretty short because lap times aren't really long, and it's only 27 laps. And I think there was some race in 2016 as well. That was one of the shortest Formula 1 races of all time that were actually finished with the full laps, and not like a race that was abandoned after a couple of laps or after a couple of minutes. So yeah, Monza is usually a track where the race goes quicker than you think it would. And it's quite sad because I would love to see a longer race around here with all that racing and all that action going on. But it's still Jaume now who controls the pace, and he has gone earlier than Roby did before, and it looks like that worked really well. He tries to break the slipstream from Samba, who is under pressure from the two guys behind, but no, Matteo has gotten under pressure from Roby, who's looking for the outside line through turn one that turns it to the inside. The Mercedes of Samba goes wide and pushes out the Alfa Romeo, then that pushes Roby up into P3. Kieran goes into P4 with that one, and it looks like Matteo has lost two positions, maybe now three, as well as Giant is trying to get past Matteo as well. He has to back out though. He's a bit too far away. In the background we can see a dive bomb from the Mercedes of Depot. Amoy is spun round, half spun, and Henry has gone off the track as well. Quite some chaos at the back here.
Yeah, to Aston Martin's falling to the back, but Samba looks like he had no grip when he got to turn one, and he broke pretty early, but he just ran wide, and it just caused absolute carnage behind us. Everyone else just sort of fell into the space that he was occupying, and obviously the Alfa Romeo got shoved out wide and lost some positions. But I was going to say it gave Jam a bit of a cushion, but already that's starting to be reeled back in, and it's within the second now, which is, of course, that crucial margin. Samba looks like he's got those tyres up to temperature now, but he was really struggling around those first few corners. He did very well to keep hold of P2.
Yeah, it was really, really odd, because if someone was very likely to outbrake themselves, it would have been Matteo or Roby. But out of nowhere, it was the Mercedes of Samba. They had no real pressure from behind, wasn't really attacking up ahead. And it looks like Samba now has caught up once again to Jaume, who obviously made a great restart, but it looks like he just doesn't have the pace he needs to stay ahead in this race. And Roby obviously now in a great position with his medium tyres and in P3 once again.
Yeah, back in, and he'll feel like he deserves to be ahead in this race, given everything that's happened so far. You can't really say up to now he's put too many feet wrong in this race. You know, he led comfortably until the first safety car. He did get overtaken by Matteo just before the second one, but he's got that position back now, and he's looked up to this point the sort of a class act to the field, but he's still got a couple of cars between him and that position he wants to get back.
Yeah, Samba is pushing more and more, and he wants that lead of this race. Obviously, it's a better situation to have one car in between you and the guys on quicker tyres than being the first target of those guys behind on the mediums. But it looks like Samba will make the move now on lap 16. Can he gain the lead from Jaume? It looks like it's a rather easy pass. He's got the inside line for turn one. If he does not break himself, that should be an easy one. He goes a bit deep. No, he doesn't. And it was a beautiful move from Samba. Looked pretty easy. And he's up into the lead of this race. Oh, and look at Kieran.
Kieran looking menacingly behind Roby. Got Jaume potentially looking at a move back on Samba, but opts against it. He has a lot more ERS to play with than the car in front. Kieran as well, a lot more ERS than the guys in front. So a few of his drivers taking different approaches, but Samba now is the lead driver, and he will feel like, with a pace difference between him and Jaume, but if he could probably build a little bit of a lead on this lap and potentially get out of DRS range, but not looking that way just yet.
Does he really want to get out of the DRS range of Jaume, though? Obviously, he wants a gap that he can't really be attacked, but I think it would be great for him to keep Jaume in that 1 second DRS window, because that will help Jaume to stay ahead of those medium runners behind him for longer, and I think Samba's main competitors are those guys on mediums rather than Jaume.
Yeah, if he can just keep Jaume sort of 6 to 7, maybe 8 tenths back, that would be absolutely perfect for him, really. He hasn't managed to do so. Jaume, is he going to be in a position to fight back here? As Marcel does the fastest lap of the race in P12. Jaume thought about going for it. Kieran went wide and may lose the position to Matteo. I don't know if he was going for a move on Roby in front, but Kieran went wide, and now he's fending off the Alfa Romeo behind. And they're going side by side for the Curva Grande. Can Kieran keep hold of P4? It's absolutely crucial for his race that he does so. He doesn't want to lose that track position, and he's got the inside line into the second chicane, and he does keep that P4, but a small mistake there that nearly got punished.
Great racing, though, in between those two guys. Did you see how close those tyres were to each other going through Curva Grande, and then a smart move from Matteo to back out there? He had the outside line, didn't really have a chance of getting past, and just backed out. That was some really clean and good racing. Was good to see. But it looks like Matteo has got the pace, and I think he could be quicker than Roby, but look at that. That was a poor exit from Jaume, and Kieran is really close to the back of Roby now as well. Roby now has to defend himself, but it is in a really awkward position behind Jaume as well. And there's some contact, and Roby kind of closed the door on Kieran, even though Kieran had his nose in there, and I think he had the right for some space in that situation, and they've crashed behind him. Roby and Matteo have crashed, and they are both out of this race.
Oh, that was all a little bit unnecessary in the end, and a huge crash on the start finish straight. Thankfully, no one else was involved. No one else got collected in it, which would have been so easy to do, of course, with the way the cars spearing back out onto the racetrack. But it's a really sad end to the race for both Roby and Matteo. They were looking odds on for a potential podium, both of them, and instead it ends with a wall and a DNF. And I think there'll be some strong words after that one, and maybe a few days later they both might look at it and think more could have been done to avoid that, because you shouldn't really be going into a wall at that part of the racetrack.
Yeah, I gotta, from my point of view, I was on board with Kieran, and I had a look from his rear wing. I looked behind from the onboard of Kieran, and for me, it looked like Roby closed the door too late. It looked like Roby tried to close the door, but Matteo already had some part of his car alongside, and that is why they kind of got glued together and both went into the wall. Because Roby definitely pulled over to the inside, and if Matteo wasn't there, there wouldn't have been a crash. But due to the fact that both immediately went into the wall, I'm pretty sure that John Pitts, by the way, that it was Matteo who had his front wing, or maybe even a bit more alongside, and Roby thought he wasn't alongside yet, closed the door, but he was, and might have been some desync as well. But it looked very aggressive from Roby and Parabolica before as well. Like I said, Kieran was on the inside, had his nose up the inside, had the right for some space, and he didn't get it from Roby. That's why, Roby lost the rear end due to the contact, and then had to defend himself from Matteo. I think that was a bit over-aggressive from Roby, if I'm honest, and he has really blown his chances to regain some points on the championship leader.
Yeah, as Henry retires as well. And yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see the incident from the driver's angles, of course. Like you said, desync can be an issue, so we don't know. Maybe Roby had a completely different thing on his screen, but yeah, from looking at it from what we saw, it did look a little bit over-aggressive from Roby, but I'm sure that will potentially end up in the stewards later on, and they'll probably be able to get more angles of it than what we have, so I reckon we'll probably have something to talk about that incident next week at Imola in regards to any penalties that get handed out. But interestingly, difference in strategies from the two guys on hard tyres. Samba's staying out on his hards, looking to protect his position. Jaume's pitted for the soft tyre, which, given the fact that he's only dropped to 11th, might turn out to not be the worst call in the world. He did look like he wasn't quite as quick as Samba on those hards, so maybe he just felt like he was too vulnerable staying out on those tyres, and he'll be able to push and attack. And that is the latest call that safety car's coming in I've ever seen. That was. I hope the drivers are ready, because I'm not sure I was.
I wouldn't have even noticed, and now he had to go basically straight away. He's done a good job though, Samba. It looks like Jan is gonna get under pressure from KK behind. Kieran is sitting up ahead, is hoping that nothing happens behind him that includes him, and it looks like John has been able to defend from his opponent. Freddy had to cut the chicane, got a 5-second penalty for corner cutting, and it looks like KK is a bit too far behind to make a move into turn 4, sorry. And yeah, he's too far behind. And yeah, that looked a bit surprising to the drivers as well, that the safety car then suddenly came in as Simon had a spin, it looks like.
Yeah, but more chaos going on at the restart, and Fleddy unfortunately picking up a penalty which will really affect his finishing position, as Jaume is making some serious inroads on the soft tyres. He's now going side by side with Macho towards Ascari, but Macho breaks later. But I feel like Jaume will try and go for the better exit here. He's got some pace on the soft tyres, and he's making up positions already, and he could be a dark horse for this race if he can keep making his way through the field at this speed. He's going to catch up to the front runners at some point. Oh, but Macho there, it was I'd say it was just about a car's width into Parabolica, but nothing more, and it would force Jaume to sort of back out at the last second.
Yeah, that was really, really tight there. But luckily it all went well. Let's see if Jelm will have a little look on the inside. Yes, he has! Late lunge down the inside, and he's got the outside line for turn 2. That is not going to make it easier for him. He slightly pushes out Bacho out the way there on the inside, and he's gone ahead now. That was quite aggressive from him. It looked like a really good dive, and around the outside, fair play to Macho, who gave him the room on the outside of turn 2. And in the end, Jelm actually gets past, but it looks like he's throwing his ERS and his battery charge completely out the window right now. And if he makes 1 or 2 more moves, I think that ERS will be dead.
Yeah, he really wants to utilize a soft tyres while they're still fresh, and yeah, Macho didn't make it easy at all, and Jam had to get his elbows out. It was hard racing, but I think I would say it was just about fair, and Jam can now try and chase down after Diogo Silva, who will be his next target. Meanwhile, we've got Kieran now on the back of Samba for the lead, and I don't think this will be too difficult for him. And really, you haven't really seen Kieran all too much right at the front of this race throughout, but it looks like he might just be about to take the lead for the first time in his race, and he's sort of doing it when you really want to, right in the last stages of a race.
Yeah, well, you don't have to be the quickest one at the start of the race. You just got to be ahead at the end of it to score your points, and it really looked like Robbie was going to gain some good points here today on both championship leaders, but now it looks like Kieran is going to make the most out of the absence of Giraffu this weekend. As you've mentioned, he's about to get into the lead in the final couple of laps of this race, and Samba won't really have that much to defend himself with. He's got a little bit of ERS. He's got more than Kieran, but he hasn't got any slipstream. He hasn't got any DRS, and he's on the slower tires. So I think it's going to be an easy overtake for Kieran as soon as he wants to.
Yeah, you have to say that Samba's pace on those hard tyres is impressive, because it's only really Kieran that's going with him. Gian's over a second back now, and he's going to be looking in his rearview mirrors because he will not have DRS by the looks of it to defend against Keke. So Samba may lose the lead here to Kieran, but if he's smart about it and keeps within the 1 second window of Kieran, there's every chance that at the very least, of course, he could still win the race, but a P2 is still very much on the cards for him. But this could be the race-winning move. Kieran with the DRS down the inside. Samba doesn't really fight it off. Didn't expect that he would. And yes, Kieran into the lead, but Samba looking pretty solid here for a P2 finish with the cars behind.
Ooh. Did you see that? Kieran just put the power down a bit too heavily and got a really snappy rear end there out of the second corner, but he managed to keep the car on track. And I think he now has to save some ERS, which he doesn't do. He's on 5%. And his plan might be to get himself out of that, to get Samba out of that 1 second window behind him. But with that little amount of ERS that he's got left, I don't think that will be too easy for him. Samba, at the same time, has got 24% of ERS left. So I think the best thing Kieran could do now is to stop using his ERS generally, and then just use it all on the final lap whenever it gets hectic for him. We've got yellow flags in the third sector. That looks like an AlphaTauri. Yes, that's Macho. And it's once again Ascari.
Yeah, he was... Oh, we've got Marcel as well. Marcel is just slowed down to let Simon through, so I don't...
damage.
Yeah, but it looks like there might have been some contact then between Marcel and Macho. They were together on the road. Marcel in the pits. And Macho, I don't know if he's going to follow suit. Well, he's gone for another spin, actually. So, yeah, it's all gone wrong for those two. It looks like there was a coming together. They were behind Jaum, who, I've got to be honest, his pace on the softs has been nowhere near what I thought it was going to be. He's kind of fallen away a bit. And actually, while that was all going off, I've just noticed that Samba has actually retaken the lead of his race.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to finish your sentence because I didn't want to interrupt you because it already happened anyway. But yeah, Samba has regained the lead, and they're both around the same amount of battery charge. I think in the end it's gonna come down to timing, or it's gonna come down to Giant, who's behind both of them. and might just be the laughing guy in third, and KK is right behind him as well. If something happens up front in between P1 and P2, those guys are right behind them to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and shout out for Debo Zillaire as well. He's currently in P5. He's not scored a point yet this season, but currently running in a strong position, and he'll be right there if anything goes on in front. But for now, Samba maintaining the lead pretty comfortably going into turn one, and yeah, those hard tyres. If he can pull this off,
Oh, and there's been a crash. It looks like Giant has outbraked himself and hit Kieran in the rear wing. And our man who was theoretically leading this championship just a couple of seconds ago has spun round and has dropped to 6th. And his hopes for a race winner today are crushed and out the window through no fault of his own.
Yeah, we've seen that a few times in this race now. Drivers just too eager on the brakes, also too late on the brakes rather, and just going into the back of a car in front, and it's all a little bit clumsy, I have to say, and it's really cost Kieran. He will be absolutely fuming inside that cockpit, I'm no doubt about that. The only good bit of news for him is he's still in P6. He will still get the lead of a championship back, and it's still some decent points, but you know, I don't think he'll be thinking about that right now. He'll just be thinking it should be a lot more than that.
Yeah, I would love to hear the team radio from him right now, because I think there will be so many curse words flying around, and I can definitely understand that, because that is so frustrating. He did nothing wrong in this race so far and just got taken out by a driver behind him, and it looks like, KK, look at how much ERS he's got left in comparison to Samba ahead. It's 2 laps left in this race. KK on fresher mediums, right behind Samba, with a lot more ERS to play with. KK is in a brilliant position to win this race.
This race has just been toing and throwing, and that incident between Jan and Kieran has opened up this opportunity for Keke absolutely perfectly, and he could be there to take advantage of it. Of course, he had that.
Oh, Jan is struggling. Jan is struggling. He's made a mistake, and it looks like that might give Debo the chance. Yes, Debo moves up into P3. There
no points all season, and now he's on for a podium.
Yeah, from 18th on the grid as well. That's some impressive stuff from him.
It's just been an absolutely chaotic race, and there's still a few laps to go. I don't think we can take anything for granted at this point. Keke right behind Samba, but he didn't have the best of runs for Ascari there, it has to be said. So Samba still trying to contain that lead, but look at the ERS difference. That's going to play a key part here. Keke could have an opportunity into turn one, and you'd think it's between these two for the win now going into the final lap.
Oh, mistake from KK.
I don't want to predict anything anymore.
Mistake from KK. KK lost the rear end coming out of the Parabolica corner. Kieran is really close to the back of Diogo Silva as well. He might still take P5, and it looks like that mistake has cost KK the chance to attack into turn one. He's got one final lap to go. Samba on his old hard tyres has to defend one more lap from KK behind, who's on fresher, on quicker mediums, and has got a lot more ERS. But that advantage is going out the window very, very quickly as well, because he's using that ERS. He is close, but is he close enough? It might come down to the final corner of this race. Through Lesmo 1 we go, through Lesmo 2 we go, and both can't afford a single mistake. Solid exit from Samba now. It looks like he's got to be safe on this straight at least. He covers the inside line coming up to Ascari. Kieran also really close to Giant. Maybe he will take P4 in this race still, but there we go, out of Ascari. It looks like Samba's made a good enough exit. He hasn't got a lot of ERS. He's got basically no ERS left. But is it going to be enough? Keke's really close coming up to the Parabolica corner. Last corner of this race. He's going to use that ERS as quickly as he can, but he's too far away. And Samba is going to come across the line and hold on to this race win. Ahead of KK. Debo takes a brilliant third place. Kieran has managed to fight back to P4. Brilliant effort from him as well. And Giant takes P5 out of Diogo Silva. Simon in P7, Amoy in P8. Jaum will take P9. Might lose it due to penalties though. Marcel is going to pick up that final point ahead of Fleddy. But oh my, what a race! And what kind of chaos that was in the end. And I think that one little mistake on the penultimate lap through the Parabolica corner cost KK the win in the end. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, what an incredible ending. And I have to say, I didn't anticipate that Samba would hold on to that. You have to give him all the credit. He placed his car pretty much perfectly. Keke made that small error on the penultimate lap, but Samba didn't put a foot wrong under the utmost pressure, and you have to give him a lot of credit for that because I don't think we anticipated someone on the hard tyres going holding on to win this race. But yeah, he managed to do it. There was a lot going on. There's a lot of incidents that'll be discussed, I'm sure. But one thing you absolutely cannot dispute is that Samba drove an excellent race, and for me, is a deserving winner.
Yeah, I mean, from the spin on lap 2, he went to the back of the grid, and then obviously with that little bit of luck through the safety car, and also with the crash in between Giant and Kieran in 2 laps before the end, he then had to still defend against KK, who was on quicker, fresher tires with a lot more ERS to play with. So he did brilliantly in those final couple of laps to hold off there. Also, big fair play to Debo, who basically was very quiet throughout the majority of this race, but suddenly he sat there in P5 and just picked up 2 more spots right before the end, and in the end he got that podium, no points whatsoever before this race, and now he went from last up to P3. And also, you got to feel for Kieran. Not going to lie. Kieran had some great pace today, made great moves. And then in the end, it all got taken away from him just a couple of laps short before the end by Giant outbraking himself. And I think he would have put a bit more pressure on Samba than KK was able to do in the end.
Yeah, and it kind of impacted Gian's race towards the end as well because he must have had some front wing damage from that. His pace in the last few laps wasn't great, and he was sort of falling down the field. So it kind of took out 2 contenders for the win in one collision. So big shame for them. But all 3 podium finishes, I think we'll have some happiness from that. Keke may feel like it should be a step higher, but yeah, that was an intense, crazy race, and you really couldn't predict a winner right up until the end. It was you probably could have made a case for about 10 drivers at each point of that race that could have won the race.
My voice will be completely gone by tomorrow. It really felt like the 2020 real life Italian Grand Prix where Pierre Gasly had to, hold on to that victory on the last lap against Carlos Sainz. It really felt like that, and it was thrilling. It was really thrilling, and I absolutely enjoyed commentating over this race here tonight. And I hope you feel the same way about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be back commentating, and that was an absolutely fantastic race. Probably the best race of the season in terms of action. Some great racing, some fortunate collisions, but it just had absolutely everything. And if that's the first part of our Italian instalment, I'm excited to see what Imola brings next week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure if it can get any better than that today. Like you've mentioned, I think that was the best race of the season so far. It had everything, and yeah, I'm really glad I was able to do comms this week after I was ill last week, and I'm going to be there for next week as well. I hope you guys are tuning in then once again when it's time for round 7. Once again in Italy, like Jake mentioned, in Imola. And yeah, anything else to add to tonight's race?
I just bring on next week, and I'm going to be keeping a keen eye on the Discord this week to see what the comments are after that race, and I think we'll probably have some stewards' decisions to talk about before next week because yeah, there was a lot going on.
Yeah, with that, Jake, thank you for coming along with me in this race, for commentating along with me. I mean, sorry, and yeah, it was a lot of fun tonight, And I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. I hope you tune in next week. Once again, Monday, 7 p.m. UK time, when we head to Imola. And yeah, make sure to tune in into the other live streams as well that are going on right now. And until then, goodbye and take care.